Welcome to Fear and Greed Summer Investing Series, brought to you by Vanta, specialists in compliance-led growth. I'm Sean Aylmer. There are some fascinating stories and great opportunities for investors in mid-market stocks on the ASX. So today we're getting an insight into a few of those companies. As always, this is general information only, and you should seek independent advice before making investment decisions. Jakob Cakarnis is the Director of Equity Research at Jarden Australia. Jakob, welcome back to Fear and Greed.
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Let's jump right into it. Mid-market, I'm defining that as kind of after the top 30 stocks and probably before 120 or thereabouts. If we jump into it, Brambles, one of my favourite companies because all they do is make pallets. Well, they probably do more than that, but I think that's a pretty cool thing to do.
Absolutely. It's phenomenal still for a post-war technology that a few pieces of lumber dictate global supply chains. I think it's one of Australia's great export stories. Shep, in its own rights, is the leading market share for pallets in the US and one of the greatest continental contenders over in Europe. So it's phenomenal, like I said, for an increasingly technocratic and technology-driven society that we've got, four boards of wood banged together that orientate how everyone acts in the supply chain.
Where is Brambles up to? Because it's had its ups and downs over the years. What do you think of it as we sort of end 2024, head into next year? What do you think about Brambles?
Yeah, we've got a record high share price, Sean. We're starting to see the stock trade back in line with its historical averages from a multiples basis, which is usually how investors look at these things. And look, I'd summarise it as Graham Chipchase, the company's CEO, and John Mullen, its current chair, as doing an amazing job, not only to generate free cash flow out of a very capital-intensive business, but to also keep its moat defended. And its moat as a network business, so it relies on having the most pallets in the most areas so that customers can use them. It's defended its moat really intelligently through proper disciplines around capital, but also making sure that they price for the risks in their market. And as we spoke just before we ramp up, this is a company that can lose pallets. You reflected, Sean, that once upon a time they lost 1 million pallets one year. This is a common phenomena, and I think it's one of the challenges where you've got physical assets in a global supply chain that things can go missing. But to Graham and John's credit, they've done an excellent job ensuring that there's not that much leakage out of the business anymore.
Jakob, I know you like Orora. Explain what Orora does and the good and bad of Orora.
Yeah, look, simplistically now, Sean, Orora is a global beverage bottling company. Historically, there'd been many things. It had come out of Amcor and also another famous Australian export. Originally, it had focused on fibre. It had a distribution and value-added marketing services business in the US that it just solved. It announced a couple of weeks ago that they're going to commit capital to buying 10% of their shares outstanding with the proceeds from the North American sale. So now it's a glass bottler, really, and cans business focused on the beverages segment.
Wait, so where does it, I don't know how it makes its money.
How does it make its money? Okay, this is a great question. So Penfolds is a great example for the Australian business. They're one of the great Australian wine exporters. Orora will exclusively provide them the bottles for their red wine, a lot of the prestige, but also a lot of the mass market wines that get exported out of Australia. They also purchased a business called Saverglass that's based out of France, but it has a global production supply chain. And the way to think about Saverglass is it services the premium beverage market. So if you've ever had an expensive cognac or if you've ever had an expensive tequila or vodka, chances are it's Aurora's product from Saverglass. So brands that come to mind there would be Grey Goose, which is one of their famous bottles that they do with the nice shaded and frosted glass. That's proprietary technology to Orora.
Wow. What are the risks on Orora?
Oh, the risks at the moment, Sean, obviously with the global demand environment, as interest rates had come up, people had pulled back, surprise, surprise, on their $800 bottles of cognac. All of a sudden, it's not au fait to have Hennessy sitting around the house in a cost of living crisis. So one of the risks still is that there's a little bit of a wash of those inventories that LVMH, Remy Cointreau had, anticipating that demand would stay higher than what it has been.
So from, your top shelf cognacs to Cleanaway. Yeah, that's quite the jump.
Look, there's a lot of money to be made in both. Cleanaway is a really interesting company for many reasons, Sean. It's the last remaining listed global waste player in Australia. So as our super funds grow and as they look for sustainable investments, but also defensive investments, Cleanaway is one that seems to be screening really well. It's got two parts of its business that are really interesting. There's a solid waste collection, so the blue trucks that come and wake everyone up at 5 a.m. in the morning, that's Cleanaway. They do the council runs. But they also have a really interesting duopolistic health business. So there's two companies in Australia that collect all the medical waste from elective surgeries. Cleanaway is one of them. And what I never knew before I started covering the company is a lot of this waste is really heavy, but it has to go away and get incinerated so that it stays healthy for all of us and prevents contamination. So Cleanaway is in a really interesting spot. It's got great management. It's seen through some really disruptive times from labour and operating dyssynergies, but it feels like we're getting through the end of those. It's just that investors are in this current debate about whether or not that's priced into the share price.
Valuation's everything. Jacob, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Sean.
That was Jakob Cakarnis, Director of Equity Research at Jarden Australia. Remember to get your own independent advice before making investment decisions. This is Fear and Greed Summer Investing Series brought to you by Vanta. Vanta automates compliance for frameworks like ISO 27001, SOC 2, CPS 234 and Essential 8, saving time and money while building trust. Join over 8,000 companies like Atlassian, Dovetail, FireAnt and Tactite.io. Managing real-time risk. Get $1,000 at vanta.com/fearandgreed. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.